Well, good afternoon and good morning, good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining today's webcast entitled Customer Success, Taking Customer Engagement to the Next Level. My name is Barton Goldenberg, and I'm your speaker and moderator for today's session. And I have the pleasure of offering this particular webcast with a distinguished colleague from Saleforce, Jamie Domenici, who I will be introducing shortly. So customer success is a critical go-forward corporate strategy. It supports this new commercial paradigm shift from selling products and services to customers to focusing on what can be done to ensure not necessarily the success of the company, but the commercial success of your customer. Best-in-class companies therefore ask themselves, how are our products and services adding valuable, measurable value to our customers? And what metrics do or should we put into place to measure this value to ensure what is referred to as customer lifetime value? And I'm referring to this as customer success strategy because, as we'll see as we move forward in today's webcast, it really is a strategy. And while it may have started in what is referred to as the software as a service or SaaS, or even now the subscription service areas, today the way most companies look at customer success is a strategy that can be used in all companies, B2B, B2C, and B2B2C. So with that intro, let me introduce myself and the webcast. I do want to mention there is a question box on the right-hand side of your screen that'll allow us to monitor questions during today's webcast. We do our best to get to the questions as they come in or at the end of the webcast. If we don't, we will get back to you via some type of either email or whatever is an appropriate communication means. One other point, this webcast is being recorded. It'll be on ISM's website. Tomorrow typically takes a couple of hours to get it on the website. So for those that either tremendously enjoyed it and want to see it again, or have missed it and would like to recommend it, or see it yourselves or recommend it to somebody else, you'll have an opportunity to come onto the ISM website and look at the webcast. Okay. So again, more formally, my name is Bart Goldenberg. I've been in this business for quite a few years, and I've had the pleasure of working and running a company out of Bethesda, Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C., that is specialized in the area of customer-centric strategies. I'm a fairly humble guy, so it's written on the screen that I was one of the first 3 inductees into the Hall of Fame. I am a columnist for multiple magazines. I'm a chairman for multiple conferences, a fairly well-known figure in my industry, and have written many books on this and related topics. The company that I created many years ago, 33 years ago to be exact, focuses on 6 key areas, as you can see on the screen. The one that I wanted to talk about today is this customer engagement area, because within customer engagement, we house our customer success practice. So it's an important piece of our overall business. And in order to understand it, because I would argue there is some reasonable confusion over what is meant by customer success today, I mean, it begs the obvious question, is there customer failure? Does anybody want customer failure? And of course, the answer is no, we don't. But we will do a briefing on what is customer success, a health check on how you're doing your customer success. We'll create the customer-centric success strategy, and if it's appropriate, we'll put into place the processes and the technology that are required to make a good customer success program. So that's our company, or my company, and I've been doing that, as I said, for 33 years. I put up some sample customers. They're all names that you're going to recognize. I don't put them up to impress you, but you'll recognize the companies. They've put their trust in ISM. We're deeply honored to have them as customers, and so I show them to you because, in fact, I'll be sharing a few stories from some of these companies during today's webcast. More importantly, joining me, as I said, is Jamie Domenici. She's going to briefly, if I may ask you, Jamie, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely, and thank you again for having me. This is one of my favorite topics, near and dear to my heart. I've been at Saleforce for 8 years, where I've spent most of my career working with customers. And in my current role, I'm really focused on how to help make customers successful. So it is that notion of not customer failure, but customer success. And my team in particular is focused on driving adoption and driving customer engagement. And how do we do that in a one-to-one type setting and also in a one-to-many? And trying, as Salesforce grows, how do we help and ensure that customers are at the center of our business and help them grow and be successful with their implementations and so much more.
Super. So we could not have a more qualified individual to join us, and Jamie, we're deeply honored.
Thank
so
you.
If you are tweeting, the hashtag is customer success. And as for those of you that know these webinar series I've been running for many years, we always start out with a poll. And this is to kind of get to know our audience fairly well. This is our first poll, and I'll be pulling it up momentarily. And it's asking you whether you are this time your company has a structured customer program in place. So bear with me a minute, and I'll launch the poll. And I will give you an opportunity to answer. So be kind enough to hit your button and tell us what you find. Just a couple more seconds here. Okay, good. So let me close it. That just changed on me. 29, 29, and 43. Okay. Let me close it and share it with you. So what you've said to us today is about 29% of those on the phone today, and there are many of you, do have a structured customer success program in place. And I want to tell you, I'm delighted to see that. About a third of you, about 30%, do not have a structured program in place. And the remaining 42%, this is a work in progress. And so I'm kind of glad to hear this. This would suggest to me we have an audience, Jamie, that's in tune with what's going on in the market. And I'm just happy to hear it. So we'll carry on with our presentation. Okay, so I want to talk first, and the format of this, I'm going to talk for, I don't know, about 15, 20 minutes, lay the foundation for this whole concept of customer success. I'm going to make some suggestions, share some examples, but then I'm going to ask Jamie from Saleforce, who has been living with this customer success program for many, many years with many, many customers, to validate some of my observations and to bring us even further with some examples of her own. So it would be my observation that this whole customer success program is a natural progression to what is from a product-driven approach to a customer-driven approach to a customer success-driven approach. And let me explain. Marketing began, back at Harvard Business School with Ben Shapiro and some of those guys in the 60s, and the thinking was if you could create a great product and you could promote the heck out of your product, telling customers that all the product features, that people would buy the product. It was the build and they will come era. But as we all know, products like the Edsel, the Ford Edsel, was a classic example of a product-driven approach that simply failed and validated that a product-driven approach often doesn't work. And that led to the 1990s when people started to ask this important question, well, if over the long term all products can become similar and therefore commodities, how do you differentiate yourself from your competition? And what the best class companies decided was to move from this product-driven approach into what is now referred to or then referred to as a customer-driven approach, where companies began to manufacture products and offer services based on input directly received from their customers. And the minivan, the Chrysler minivan, was a great example of this new customer-driven approach where it began to better reflect what families were looking for in a transportation vehicle. And there's nothing wrong with the customer-driven approach, but in the last five or so years, 7 or so years, there's been this new transformation, this time to what we refer to as a customer success-driven approach. And it's been really brought on initially by the new business models that the Saleforce.coms and others have brought on, this is subscription services, pay-as-you-go, whereby you retain a customer, you acquire a customer at an actual loss. It costs you more money to get the customer initially than the customer may be worth, but you need to sustain that customer long-term to make sure that you are covering your costs and making a profit. And what happened is there was tremendous churn in the industry where it would cost a lot of money to get a customer, and then unfortunately they would leave, and the question was, wait a minute, we're not covering our costs, and the concept of customer success-driven became a part of it. And under customer success, we ask this question: how is my product or service adding measurable value, not to us again, but to our customers, And what metrics does the company have to put into place to measure this value? And it makes a whole lot of sense to me, because at the core of a good customer success driven approach is the question of going well beyond the initial sale and focusing on the commercial success again, not solely of your company, but that of your customer. And I must tell you, I've been around for a fairly long time. It's not intuitive. It's not intuitive to say, how am I going to make sure my customer is using my product or service very effectively? It's going to make my customer very successful, very happy, and therefore they're going to buy more product from me. Versus that more customer-driven approach that says, I built a product that you thought was going to be appropriate. For goodness sakes, why don't you buy more of it? And it's a twist. It's a slight paradigm, but it's something that's very important. And the best way to understand it, at least from my side, is the Venn diagram you see on the screen. On the left side, you have organizations' desire to sell more products and more services. That's a very valid goal and profitably. But on the right-hand side, you have an increasingly smart, intelligent, sophisticated, internet-savvy customer who's saying, sure, I'll buy your product, but if I don't derive personal value, what I call tangible value, quite frankly, I don't think I'm going to continue to use it. And so it's that intersection between wanting to sell more products and services and providing tangible value in the eyes of the customer that drives customer success. And what I'd like to do is just share with you a couple of examples of some of our customers that are using customer success as a strategic way of thinking of how they do their business. And I just remind you that even though the customer success may have started in the software as a service business and has branched out into the subscription or pay-as-you-go, I've always had a challenge. I challenge myself on that. And here's why. If you look at the classic 80-20 rule, where 80% of your customers, 20% of your customers provide 80% of the revenue for a company, what we know is if we're not tremendously looking after that 20%, it's very expensive to lose them. So we know that we have to keep a focus on our best customers, and therefore customer success cannot be limited to software as a service or subscription or pay-as-you-go. I understand why it started there, but it's just as applicable to B2B and B2C and B2B companies as it is to SaaS or subscription-based companies. And so let me give you a couple of examples. Nike's a customer of ours, and a company like Nike, for example, or for that matter, even Under Armour, or anybody else in the sportswear industry, they all have some type of runner app, or some type of an app or some type of a sports app that will do everything from collecting runners' information in terms of personal fitness. You can connect to a personal coach. You can have running metrics to measure your personal best. You can have sensor technology on the footwear. And all of this helps not you necessarily to buy a great looking shoe or for that matter, even wear a great looking shoe. What it helps you do is better your personal best in a marathon, or it helps you be a better, a football player, or it helps you, achieve the running goals that you've set for yourself, and you can measure it. So the product becomes not just the product itself, but it becomes the product plus the service behind it, and that's what drives customer success. In the B2B world, I'd like to just revert back to one of our longstanding customers for 28 years now, and that's ExxonMobil. And we've had the pleasure of doing lots and lots of projects with them. But let's just look at the oil lubrication piece of their business. And that's, you've heard of Mobil 1 for the passenger vehicles. Well, they have something called Mobil SHC for the industrial world, people that make machinery and use machinery. And what happens is the manufacturers of these machinery, they aggregate customer metrics on lubrication performance. And then what the company does, like ExxonMobil, is they'll offer these metrics to their customer to, for example, help reduce the machine downtime. It's very expensive when you shut an industrial machine down on a manufacturing line. And using real-time data, what the manufacturer of these lubricants, like ExxonMobil, will do is track the results per type of machinery and then recommend the best lubricant for each model. And what that does is it helps to ensure their customers' success. Again, the concept behind customer success is making sure that you are adding value to your customer and making sure that they themselves feel that that product is allowing them to be successful, thereby they'll wanting to buy more product from you. In the case of a B2B2C example, Pac Life or Pacific Life also is one of our customers. And this is a good example of a business service that will sell via brokers. So there's a middle person. And in the case of Pac Life, it's literally tens of thousands of financial advisors across the country that are selling the annuities or the mutual funds of Pacific Life. And the whole concept is that when you sell via a broker or an agent, what you're trying to make sure is that you have a deep understanding not only of what the broker or the agent needs, but you're equally interested in what the end customer needs so that the broker is providing the right products to that customer and you're providing the right products to that particular broker. So broker and agents, the middleman or the middle person, now have their own customer success managers that meet monthly within a variety of end customers to assess what are the needs of those end customers. They gather metrics on how, in this particular case, Pacific Life services are performing. And during the meetings, the agent and the end customer, what they're able to do is to begin to ensure that their customers are successfully applying the services. And during that time, they can also identify potential cross-sell or upsell opportunities for potentially additional financial services. So the message I want to pass here is that while customer success may have had its origins in the SaaS and has expanded into subscription and pay-as-you-go because of the need to get additional business to cover the initial loss that it costs to acquire a customer, from my perspective, and Jamie will kick in and have her own thoughts, it would be silly to limit it to that space because my customers, whether it be Nike or ExxonMobil or Pac Life, they all need and all have in one way or another adopted some form of the customer success strategy. So I sit back and I ask a couple of questions, as I often do. How does one get ready for customer success? And I must tell you, it amuses me sometimes when I ask this question to some of our customers. And they say, well, hang on, Bart. We already have customer success managers. I think we're doing the right thing. And, you just poke a little bit behind the scene, and you realize that, in fact, the company has not taken on customer success, but they've engaged a couple of people who are claiming they're customer success managers. And quite frankly, that just isn't going to fly. Because a good customer success program, as it says, requires a company-wide commitment to the customer. And when you think about it, it's not just the sales guy or gal that touches the customer or the service person or the marketing person or the finance person, but it also could be the shipping person and the warranty person, da-da-da-da-da-da. And the key concept behind a customer success is every person that is in one way or another touching or interacting or helping the customer has to be attuned to the fact that we're all fighting the same battle, and that is driving success for that customer. And so it would be, it's mandatory for a customer success program to be successful that the entire company has made the commitment towards the success, not of themselves and their job, not of their department, not of their own company, but of that of the customer. And what that then in turn requires is changes to processes of how do we deal with customers, how do we deal with service when we touch the customer, how do we share insight on what the customer said, how do we gather through effective processes, customer feedback, 360-degree feedback loops, that type of thing. How do we make sure that our people understand the importance and how these processes should be put into place when dealing with customers? Are we using technology, whether it be Saleforce or others, to help drive that particular customer success from the customer's perspective? And all of this, if you will, does require some change across both customer-facing personnel as well as company departments. And any of you that have a favorite company you like to work with. I'm married to an Italian girl. She likes Zappos. She's always just loves it, and she's connected to that company. And I'll talk about it in a minute. It's an emotional connection where she can buy her shoes and return them if she doesn't like them, and she just keeps having fun, learning about different shoes, I suppose. But my point is, it does require that Zappos deals with internal personnel as well as with my people like my wife who are loyal customers, but need to understand how it works so that they can drive that emotional quotient that I'm going to talk about momentarily. In that regard, I return to something, as you'll see on the screen, something I speak about for years and years and years, and that is We're not talking about slapping in a piece of customer success technology that all of a sudden is going to create customer success with your customers. We have to look at the technology being 20% of the overall success of the program, 80% being good customer facing or good customer success processes that people are buying into both inside the company as well as outside the company. Okay, couple more thoughts on me, and then I'd like to turn it over to Jamie. So when I see an initiative come across an industry like our industry or this particular industry, the customer centric customer experience, customer relationship, this type of an industry, I often ask the question, are the drivers sufficiently strong to sustain this particular new wave that has come across? And I think one has to be critical in asking that. It gives a kind of a determinant of what's to come in the future. And here are the drivers as I see behind the customer success wave that we're currently facing in the industry. So there is no question but that acquisition and churn costs for SaaS and subscription service pay-as-you-go, that really is a driver. Because as I've alluded to earlier on, and there have been many studies done, I don't remember the exact figure, but it's something like $1.15 to get a customer initially to earn their first dollar. And then what you're doing is offering add-on or upgraded services through good salesmanship, but also a good customer success program, whereby the cost of those add-on services is well below the dollar that you're going to charge. And so over the long run, you're making a reasonable profitability. So for those that are in the SaaS and or subscription services, that cost of acquisition, that cost of churn is a critical driver to customer success initiatives. I alluded earlier on to what I'd like to refer to as the emotionally connected, smarter or smart customer. And I've got two wonderful teenagers, and I would consider them certainly emotionally connected. I'm not so sure how smart they are just now, but they're certainly getting wiser day by day. But emotionally connected would be they relate to causes. They relate to brands. They relate to something that drives them personally. They're not buying, Nike because it's a shoe. They're buying Nike because it's the best way for them to win the race at high school, track, or college. So they're relating emotionally to a product, and that to me is without a doubt a tremendously important driver behind the customer success programs that we should all be running, and that is understanding that emotional kind of mentality or quotient that the kids like myself, or for that matter, me and you, are relating to the products and services that we're buying. And I don't want you to underestimate the importance of this. I'm working with a really exciting company right now. It's all venture capital. It's real young, but we're going to disintermediate the way rock and roll bands work with agents and other such companies, and the ability to see how fans, the loyalty that fans have to the various rock and roll artists through the various causes that those artists are a part of. It's really quite mind-boggling, and it's more the cause, it's more the emotional connection that they have to the artist than maybe even the music. And so I hope you understand where I'm coming from. The next bullet I put down there, I thought about this a lot. One of the drivers is we are in a position today to better understand customer behavior because we can better gather what customers do when they're on our website or on a mobile app or when we visit them or whatever. We have lots of data points to allow us to track what is the customer doing, what do they think of us, how they are relating to us, and what if we're clever, and many companies are, we're going to flip that around and we're going to use that to drive higher value to the particular customer. And so we're going to be able to know what turns the customer on, when they get turned on, what areas turn them on, what displeases them. And we're going to feed more of what is important to them. And that's just, a clever company that does its homework and knows its customers and knows that the emotional connection is very important, and they deliver products and services to help drive that customer success. And the one I put on the bottom, I don't think anybody could deny, whether you're a B2B, B2C, B2B2C, everybody needs to remain competitive. If your biggest competitor is running a customer success program that is, being received very well by customers, and you're not, the simple question is who has the competitive advantage? And I think that it's not just a perchance that we move from product-driven to customer-driven to customer success-driven. I think it's a necessity, and I think it's a driver that's not going away. And lastly, let me share with you what I would like to call the core benefits of a good customer success program. Just food for thought in terms of, why bother? It always, for me, has to pass that why bother test. Well, we've already talked about the churn. Anybody that is in for example, the telephone business, the mobile phone business, or even the software as a solution or as a service like Saleforce and many others, everybody knows the cost of churn is tremendous and the need to reduce churn. So that's one of the clear benefits. If you can really understand why people churn, how to prevent them from churning, what drives success, and that can really then allow you to be a more profitable company and a happier customer. You have happier customers. There's another important one that I'd like to talk about, and that is increased revenue coming from new sales. And I introduced something called the customer lifetime value or lifetime value. I'm sure you've heard of that. And it's an understanding of what customers buy which products over what time period during what is referred to as the life cycle of that client. And there really are big differences as to whether customers remain loyal at one particular moment in their life cycle, throughout their life cycle, sporadically during the life cycle. And you can literally study the types of groups or what are referred to as cohorts that are looking at buying your products and services. And so one of the goals of customer success, and we'll go into this a little bit later, is if you can understand the cohort and what makes them think and what makes them tick and what makes them buy and what makes them successful, then you can then begin to target better products and services to them to drive that customer success, which, if you run it backwards, increases revenue to the corporation. We all know that one of the biggest benefits of customer success is increased customer satisfaction ratings, higher net promoter scores, more likes on social media. I'd even tie that in with higher adoption, better loyalty, and advocacy as they promote the product or service to their friends. And the best example I know of this, and I just love the example, is the Tesla car. It's a good example of customer success in action. As you probably know, they're constantly monitoring and measuring each Tesla owner's driving habits through the software, and then what they can do based on the behavior, how often do they fill up, when do they fill up, how much do they drive, where do they drive. Through the software, they can upgrade the car to meet the unique driving habits of each customer. So what that's allowed Tesla to do is to shoot past most of the car manufacturers in terms of customer satisfaction ratings, because the car becomes something that the customer can emotionally connect to. A couple of other quick points. I think that properly done, you can really drive a better efficiency within the company through a customer success program, because what you're looking at is, if you know your cohorts or your targeted groups of customers, you can begin to understand how they move through their life cycle, and you can begin then to make investments in your products and services that are based on the added value, that is the contribution margin, the value that they can bring to your product and service. So you're actually better focusing investments based on specific cohorts and the value they bring to your company. I think another important one is to decrease risk, because in the old days it was spray as you play or whatever they called it, where you would try to reach everybody at once and you'd recommend everything to everybody, and we all know that's not good, effective marketing or selling or just business in general sense. So if you can focus carefully on next best action for a cohort and what is most likely to drive success of that cohort, then what you've done is you're not spraying money all over your customer base with the hopes that it'll stick somewhere, but you're decreasing the risk by focusing on what would be next best buy, next best action, next best whatever to drive that customer success. And needless to say, I've already repeated this. I think that increased competitive differentiation, I have it, you don't, is another way to drive customer success benefits. So what I've tried to do in this 20 minutes is to lay out kind of some of the core concepts behind customer success. As I would like to now move on to Jamie, who will bring a different reality to this, a company that has been to a large extent responsible for the whole concept of customer success, and I'll have Jamie tell her story. But before I do that, let me ask my second question, or poll, if I may, of the day, and that is, what are your biggest barriers to developing a customer success program? And in this particular case, I'd like you to select all that apply. Let me get that open. I'm just interested, we're interested in what is it that's stopping all companies, that remaining 46% that are in the middle of doing it and 30% that haven't done it. What are some of the challenges, if you've answered this for us? Again, I'll give you a couple minutes to answer this. It's very interesting what I'm seeing. Okay. We have one honest person pop up. That's good. Okay. All right, this is good enough. I'm pretty happy with this. So here's what you all said. And by the way, it shouldn't add to 100, just to make sure we're all, get our maths right. So let me close that and share it. And share. So for 33% of those that responded, securing internal commitment remains a challenge. And that is getting the executive team to buy into customer success thinking. I deal with a lot of executive teams, and there's an awful lot of arrogance in executive teams that think, well, I've got a great product and it's been working for years and we own the market, and so why do I have to think differently? Or even internal commitment by personnel, sales, marketing, customer service, finance, shipping, and other people that touch the various customer. That too is always a challenge. Now, 33% of you also said we really don't know our customers' needs well enough. Now, I'm not being facetious here. We all know our customers' needs. We all know we know our customers' needs. But do we know the emotional connection of our customer to our product or service? And that's really what I think we're getting at. Now, the interesting one is 67% of the folks that answered this poll felt that they did not have the skills to make this happen. And I think that's very humble and very good of you to acknowledge that. It really is more than a customer success manager. It's people that can put into place the processes that can convince the various customer-facing functions and the customer of the value of the customer success program, and then bring in a technology behind that to drive efficiency into those processes. And 33% talked about costs being an issue. So that gives you some background, Jamie, to kind of think about as we move forward onto your part. Let me close this. Now we're going to hide it. Okay, so let me now move on to Jamie, and I hope, Jamie, you can see the screen, and you're on.
Yeah, I can, and thank you. And there's so much of what you said that I agree with and that we've learned from experience, sometimes the hard way. But at the center of it, first let me say, from our first poll, for the 50% of you that are a work in progress, or for the 30% of you who haven't yet started, I think you're in the right place. And for those who are on the journey, congratulations. But I was hoping, to give you a little bit of insight into how Salesforce has done it, and that's from the start until now, because I think customer success is something that evolves as your company evolves, and it's something that has to grow with you. But at the heart of it, at the very, very heart of it, and you said this, Barton, on one of your slides, is that it has to be a company-wide commitment to the customer. And so at Salesforce, we really talk about how do we put the customer at the center of everything we do. And it's not only our customer, it's our customer's customer, which is a really interesting evolution. When we work and partner with companies, whether it be a one-person mom and pop or a huge organization like State Farm, we're thinking and trying to understand our customer's customers, so we know how to help them with the technology, but also can give them advice of how to build their company in a customer-centric way as well. So when you look at it, you think, okay, that's really nice. How did you do that? And if you go back to 1999, when Salesforce was started, Mark, and Parker, they came up with this great idea for a CRM, moving to the SaaS model, and as of day one, they realized the only way for this model to work is for our customers to be happy, so that they can renew, but also for so many other reasons, so that they use the software, so that they like the software, so that they can become evangelists of the product. So at day one, when we started the company, we actually built out our customer success function in parallel, which was sort of new in that time. Actually, fun fact, our first customer success representative was actually Mark himself. So he was on the phone, taking calls, hearing from happy customers and not so happy customers, and using that information to feed back into the product organization to improve not only the product, but the entire customer experience. But, as Salesforce grew and as it evolved, so did the need for our customer success function to grow as well. Barton, you said it, it's not just about CSMs anymore. You have to be looking to build and expand your portfolio. So through the years, we've done that. Around 2010, that's when we brought in our advisors. And these were folks who are doing more, they're Salesforce experts. Sometimes I call them Salesforce PhDs because they sit on the borderline of the understanding Salesforce's technology and being on the cutting edge of the roadmap, which we move really fast here, and also being subject matter experts, working with customer after customer, and then bringing that knowledge on site with the customer so that they can help move faster to where they want to go. And from there, the next thing is we realized we have over 150,000 customers, some really big, some really small. And so we started building our portfolio out and diversifying and bringing in more one-to-many type tactics. So, things like an accelerator. And this is basically best practices that we've packaged up and that we can bring to customers so they can get up and running faster. So if someone comes to us and they say, you know what, I want to build out my inside sales organization. Well, that's part technology, that's part process, that's part culture. And by working with customer after customer, we've sort of built blueprints. And when customers come on board, if they ask that question, we can proactively serve them information, with online tools and resources, but we can also get on the phone and help them so that they can get business value faster. From there, we've brought in more expertise to help our customers grow, like experience design. And if you ask, well, where are we going now? It's all about bringing in that intelligent customer success. So bringing in a lot of data science. You talked, Barton, about understanding your customer, understanding their behaviors, understanding the touch points, understanding when it's working, when it's not working. And at Salesforce, we use a lot of those as leading indicators and lagging indicators, but we're using a lot of those things to look at patterns, identify patterns, and proactively provide service to the customer before they even know that they need it, right? And that's our end goal, is helping our customers know what they need before it becomes a problem, because we don't want to look at unhappy customers. We want to build happy customers and help build more and more and build on top of that. So it's a really exciting time for customer success, but definitely an evolution.
Wonderful.
And if you go to the next slide, the most common question I get is, well, how do you set up your organization? And you can see here, Salesforce is big. We started with CSMs, which is customer success representatives. Those are people on the phone who are helping customers, by actively offering proactive suggestions of what they could do. But as you scale, as your company becomes larger, there's a need to bring out, to diversify. So if you look at our customer success group, it's really broken up into a key main areas. It all sits on top of our technical support, which is a global organization. These are the amazing people who are answering the phones, answering customer questions in a really fast, timely manner on a global scale, so critical to customer success. But on top of that, we've built out some things. We have our renewals organization, which those folks are helping customers renew. It's not about upselling or cross-selling. It's about making sure the customer's happy, so when the renewal comes to place, that they're comfortable and want to renew. We have our Salesforce services, who are those folks like our Salesforce experts that I was telling you about, that are on the ground with customers, helping them, in the trenches, helping them not only use our software, but how do we help them build this new customer transformation or a digital transformation or wherever they want to go. We're your partners. We also have a lot of success resources. And I myself spend a lot of time and energy here because I used to work at a small business, and I know I can't always hire a Salesforce expert, but that's okay. We have something called Trailhead. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, Trailhead is our online learning tool, which is a fun way to learn about Salesforce. It's open and accessible to everyone, not just Salesforce customers. And the idea is that we give you self-guided online resources that can help you solve business problems and leverage technology at the same time. So you go online, you take a trail, you take a quiz. In some cases, you're doing hands-on in the app training, all of which is offered to every single customer and any folks out there who want to learn more. And this is a key area of investment for Salesforce, because we figure, number one, let's give you access to the information that you need so that you can proactively self-serve, which more and more customers are asking for. And now we see more and more of our customers going to the same model. which is really exciting. And last but not least, we have a lot of our success products. So what are the tools, think about this, what are the tools that you give to your customers to help them with customer success? And my number one point of advice is we try and think about tools that help or that are org specific, right? And so I'll give you an example. We've rolled out a new UI, which is Lightning, and a lot of our customers are moving over to Lightning. And now to help them move over, we've offered something that's a Lightning, health check, or we have an optimizer service. So a customer can go and press a button and get an immediate readout that's going to give them step-by-step directions of what they need to do in order to move their org to this new environment. Or another great example is we do 3 releases a year. That's a lot of technology across, 13 plus products. So it's a lot of good stuff, but just like with your Tesla, when you drive your Tesla, they give you an update every month, and it's customized to you, which is great. And it gives you immediate readout of what you've done, why they've done it, and how you can leverage it. It's very personalized to the driver. The same with Salesforce. When we do these monthly or 3 times a year releases, we encourage our customers to run our optimizer, free tool available to everyone, but with a press of a button, they can instantly see all of the new updates, all the new technology that's been released that they're using or that could benefit them. We try and synthesize the information down to make it as easy for the customer to get the best and fastest access to the new technology without having to try and read through everything. So we do a lot of upfront things that we give the customer, or we empower our customers to get access to information before having to actually talk to somebody one-to-one, because that's how we operate, right? If I have a problem, I want to try and self-serve. I Google it, right? I go and try and find information on the web prior to having to call that 1-800 number. So we operate a lot in that zone. And if you go to the next slide, knowing your customer is something that I would encourage everyone on the call to do, and it's critical to your business. We try and look at a lot of different data inputs and identify what are our most common issues that we're hearing from customers, or the most common things that we're helping with. And there is a huge range, but these are kind of our 5 most common areas that customers want us to partner with them to help drive success. And some of them are really simple, and not simple also in execution, but simpler in definition. I want to solve a specific problem. And we've had customers come to us, think about Verizon, who came to us and said, I want to help my agents to be more productive. So when my sales reps are on the phone, they can spend less time searching for information and more time answering questions to the customer. So we helped them to build out a one-stop shop that gave information to their sales reps and had everything that they needed in one place. This is a console. But it's something sometimes as simple as bringing one view of the customer into one place and helping the companies to drive that success. Now, other companies come to us, and in the world of the digital transformation, where the rules of the game are changing, companies come to us and say, I want to transform my entire business, and I want you to go on the journey with us. And in these cases, we need to bring in a lot of different types of support or customer success tools. Some customers will take trails. Some customers will bring in experts. If you look at State Farm, this is a company that's been in business for a really long time, and they are completely looking to redefine their entire customer experience end-to-end. So they're redefining their customer support function, and they're partnering with us to figure out how can they help know their customer better, right? How do they better understand when a customer has a claim, how do they know it before the customer even has to submit it? Or how can they make that turnaround faster? And so when the customer wants to go on that type of transformation, we partner with them, and we bring in our Salesforce experts and our best practices and our accelerators, and we help them as a partner drive customer success, as opposed to somebody who's sitting on the sideline. And if you go to the next slide, if you're wondering, well, how do I set this up in my own company? I would encourage you to take a look at these 3 buckets. When I work with customers, regardless of size, I try and understand how do they want us to go on the journey with them. Some customers say, I want to do it myself. Others say, I want you to show me how. I don't want to do this alone, but I'm self-sufficient to some level. Other customers, as I mentioned, like State Farm, they say, I want you to do it with me. And if you click forward, I'll just give you an example. What are some of those things look like? And in the do-it-myself bucket, I mentioned Trailhead. We also have a community. So some of the best customer support, believe it or not, comes from peers. So finding ways to bring customers together creates a really healthy dialogue that brings a ton of innovation to the table. And so our community is one of those places that we do it. We also do this a lot in events where we'll have something called Circles of Success, and we'll bring customers to the table to actually just talk to one another. And yes, we'll bring in somebody from Saleforce as well, but it's really peer-to-peer contact that is going to help drive a lot of success and innovation. Another area, if you look at Show Me How, and if you click to the next slide, here are some of our adoption services that help drive business value faster. I mentioned accelerators. We also do a ton of interactive webinars and events. So looking and honing in on some of the most common topics that we hear from customers and proactively inviting them to the right area so that they can learn hands-on from Salesforce experts. And it's all about providing that proactive engagement. One thing we talked about earlier, Barton, I heard you say on the call was, how do we measure or how do we look at indicators to understand our customers so that we can know what they need before they do? And one of the things that we do here at Salesforce is use an early warning system. It's a scoring mechanism, which is basically an algorithm that we've developed, and we've helped many customers develop something similar for themselves, which brings together a few metrics. For us, these are things like license utilization, adoption of certain features, and we benchmark this across other customers, not to share that information out, but to understand if you have 10 people who have the same amount of employees who are using the same features, what is that leading company doing to help them drive success faster? And then we can make recommendations to the rest of the peer group so that they can actually get up to speed as well. And sometimes this is via email and automation, and other times this is via our customer success rep. And it just depends on where you are on your journey. But this is really important, I think, to really understanding your customer. You have to understand the data that's behind it and use it as an indicator to help you provide that proactive support. And if you click on that last area, this is something that Salesforce has developed over time, and these are advisory services. And these are folks who kind of go on the journey with customers. So when State Farm comes to us and says, I want to do a complete business transformation, we can help you with that. And our goal at Salesforce is not to be there forever. It's actually to go on site with our partners and our customer and help them build the right blueprint and the right vision that they need and help them be successful and self-sustainable and to go on. It's not that we want to be there forever, but we want to help our customers get the most business value as they can faster. So this is a great overview kind of what the tools that we've built across the different spectrum to help make customers successful. And I think you can see, Barton, there's quite a mix of these one-to-one type interactions, but also a ton of investment into one-to-many so that we can access customers no matter where they are or what size and help them to be successful.
This is super. I want to thank you for it. Listen, I'm going to hit you with I wanted to draw some closing comments and takeaways, but I'm going to hold back one question that was asked of me in terms of how long it takes to really implement a customer success program. But I want to tee that up. And when you do have a churn problem, how easy is it to turn that around through a customer success program? But keep that in mind. Let me make a couple of closing comments, folks. I mean, actually, it's more takeaways and then some closing comments. And then I want to get to questions. So a couple of key takeaways. And I always try to make these webcasts relevant. So first of all, I think it's important to just acknowledge that customer success initiatives, programs, they are really highly relevant to all industries. This is not a software as a service or a subscription or pay-as-you-go, new way of making sure that they stay alive and healthy. It's as relevant to my buddies over at ExxonMobil as it is at Nike, as it is at Pac Life. It's also a paradigm shift. And paradigm shifts, they're sometimes hard to get your head around, especially if you're very successful. But as I've alluded to earlier on, it's a way to connect your offering to a customer's emotionally relevant goals. And it just takes time and effort to understand what are the causes, what are the reasons that people buy your product, way beyond the fact that it's a bunch of material that's put together to make a particular product or a chemical that allows you to do something. The key to success is helping customers reach their goals. And it's a little bit mind-boggling sometimes to think, well, I have to understand my customers' needs, then I have to understand what makes them successful, then I got to deliver stuff that'll help make them successful. And that is a very important concept, because at the end of the day, if you're the company that helped the customer reach their goals, guess what? You're the good guys in town. I think that Jamie, I hope you came across that she talked about how important it is for you to learn how and why customers want to engage with you. She laid out a variety of different ways that Salesforce does engage with their customers at every step of the journey. And I think it is important to think through what is the best way. Again, this is not a concept of you need help here, let me tell you how to do it. This is an issue of show me your cycle of selling and or servicing. Let me see how we could add value at each step of the way. And the other thing that I think is very important is this whole concept of customer success metrics. I'm not going to tell you a lie. Customer success programs, they're costly, but it's a mentality, it's a strategy, and any good strategy costs money, but it has to be measured. It has to be measured on a regular basis. So, for example, I know, just because I know Salesforce very well, they go out, I think it's quarterly, if I remember correctly, and they're measuring how well their customers feel that Salesforce is driving customer success. So these types of things are very important in putting into place the metrics. If you would like to continue the dialogue, needless to say, good old Barton here and Jamie, we would be honored to help you create or successfully implement the program. And I'll give you the contacts in a minute of how to get in touch with us. In fact, it looks like I'll be giving you those contacts in just a minute. If you want to kind of dig deeper, I mean, we can't cover the world in a 50-minute webcast, but there's a paper that a subject matter expert wrote for me, Tom Lipscomb. He's just a very, very clever fella. And he wrote it for me, and I'm deeply grateful for that. It sits on our website, and it's called Beyond the Brand, Enabling Customer Success. And I don't read all that many things, but I did read this carefully, and I think it's a heck of a good, it's a kind of a page and a half, and I would encourage you. That's on the ISM side. On the Salesforce side, Jamie may have alluded to this, some great reports they do called the North Star Report. And it's a group of reports that are actually very, very interesting to read. The most recent one is the Digital Transformation Strategies for Success, and that's, again, downloadable at the site that I've written on the particular screen. So I would encourage either or both of these to be downloaded and read in your time. If you wanted to connect with me, that's my way of getting connected. And again, remember, this is all up on the ISM website, so if I'm going too fast, you can come back to it. If you want to connect with Jamie, that's her way of getting connected. But now what I'd like to do is to open up this to question and answer. And I'd like to ask the question that was asked, as I alluded to earlier on. I'll frame it up just the way the person did frame it up. And it's a bit of a stinging question, but I think it's worth answering. I always like these types of questions. So it says, hi, Jamie. How did things change after David Dempsey's 2005 revelation at your executive offsite that showed that your churn was really quite higher than everybody was hoping for? You know, was this a 5-year process? Was this a 3-year process? This person's just trying to understand realistically, what are the expectations for others?
First of all, I'm so glad you brought up Dave Dempsey, because I love that story. Dave kind of went into an offsite. He recognized that customers were churning. This is the very beginning of Salesforce, and brought to the table that we need to double down in customer success. We had started, but we really haven't over-invested. And so a lot changed at that period of time. Customer success, which was part of what we do, it became a much bigger emphasis, which we had to invest a lot more in. So as we were hiring AEs, we would invest similarly in customer success representatives, which was key to our growth. So I would say, did it happen right away? How long does it take to do it? It did happen right away. It was an investment that we made immediately. And then it evolved over time. And I think that it just depends on how much you invest and how fast. So this wasn't a 3-year or 5-year process to build customer success. It was more of a 1-year, 2-year process. But as you can see from that slide, that was a start. And we had to really bring in a head of customer success. We have built out an entire organization and had to diversify our different types of support in order to continue to grow with our company.
Super. I got another one for you. You may have some for me. I just like to challenge. This is just my question. But, you know, when we started to talk about this webcast, I had said to you that I have great admiration for Saleforce. I've been a customer of mine and friends of mine for many, many years, and I'm deeply grateful for that. But you guys also happen to be one of the founders of the whole customer success movement, thus the reason I invited you to it. But I said, let me tell you, when I do this webcast, I'm not going to talk about only software companies or subscription-based or pay-as-you-go, because I believe that customer success strategy, customer success programs are just as relevant B2B, B2C, and B2B2C as it is SaaS or subscription pay-as-you-go. And I just want to ask that question to you, and we kind of had this discussion, but, you know, am I right in suggesting it is indeed as relevant to B2B, B2C, and B2B2C companies as it is, for example, the software business that you're in?
I mean, for us, it's key, but I think you're totally right. I think more and more companies are looking at customer success and even evolving it to become more of the customer experience. And it's key to companies, especially in the fourth industrial revolution, where everybody's experiencing this digital transformation and our consumers have really changed their behaviors. So we need to be providing customer support at every step of the way, of every step of the customer journey. And I kind of joked with you, you know, I had worked in marketing for a long time, and now I run customer success. And that's because, and ironically, our marketing team is now trying to learn customer success. Our roles are becoming more and more connected because our customer experience has to be connected. And when I think about our customers, I look at a company like LVMH, who is, you know, selling luxury items. And they came to us because they needed to really revolutionize the way that they interacted with their customers so that they knew customers' buying preferences, i.e. if somebody goes onto a site and they look at a shirt, they don't buy anything, but then they come and they call their support line to learn about that shirt. They wanted their representative to already know that they looked at the shirt and be able to make a recommendation about what else they might like or how else they could interact with the business or different brands that they have. And so while that's just one example of many, I think that more and more folks are looking at customer support as a very key and integrated part of their customer experience that touches every part of the business across any and every industry.
So now we'll go to just a bold prediction. And you know, I just like to ask this. I sit back, you know, I write quite a bit, and I'm in the process of writing an article, and its title, I haven't totally locked on the title, but it's titled something like this: how can a company survive without implementing a customer success strategy? Is that a fair statement?
I don't think that they can. As I mentioned, I think customers have different expectations, and they expect this integrated experience. You mentioned Zappos. We talked about Tesla. I think another great example is Amazon, right? Like, we expect not only to be able to buy anything at any time, but we look at the recommendations, which would be more of the marketing function. And if something goes wrong, you expect that easy customer support function where you can return easily, you can talk to someone easily. It's a seamless experience. And it needs to be across every touch point. So I think customer success is not only you won't be able to succeed, but you won't be competitive in the marketplace if you don't invest in that side of your business.
Super. We're kind of out of time. What I want to just thank everybody, first of all, for participating in today's webcast. We've been deeply honored to have Jamie on behalf of Saleforce, and I hope that some of the thoughts that we have offered during this particular webcast will stick. The only one I want to leave you with is this question that you should be asking yourself: how is my product or service adding measurable value to our customers, and what metrics have I put into place to measure this value? And if that's your takeaway today, I would be deeply honored, and so would Jamie. But on behalf of both Salesforce and ISM, we wish you continued good success If you'd like to continue the dialogue, please get in touch with us. And for now, have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, guys.